The pattern change you've been waiting for is on the way for many. We're going to break down the details for you in this update over the next 7 to 10 days. Let's start off with the satellite view. And we've got the northern branch of the jet stream that has become very active. We saw some severe weather yesterday. We're going to see more of it today across the Great Lakes. And into tomorrow, that's going to move into the mid-Atlantic region. Further south, we do have this little easterly wave. It's not a tropical wave, but it's more of a upper level low that has to move inland down there in South Texas. That's going to spark, especially with some daytime heating, is going to spark some additional sporadic isolated showers and thunderstorms across South and Central Texas. And you can actually see out there in the Atlantic, it's just really quiet now, folks. I mean, the only action in this town is this little tropical wave that's trying to get its act together. And right now, the National Hurricane Center has, in fact, put a 20% probability of it developing over the next 7 days. You can take a look at the little complexes on the vorticity map a little bit better. So we've got several. This is your first one. This is the activity that's going to bring some severe storms across the Great Plains and into the Ohio Valley later on this afternoon. There is that little easterly wave, and we've got several disturbances out here into the Pacific. Actually, we've got Hector, and then we have Gilma, Hurricane Gilma. We had a hurricane that just moved south of the Big Island of Hawaii, and Gilma is actually going to be making a beeline towards Hawaii itself. So that's also going to get pretty close to the island region. Fortunately for Gilma, it is going to be weakening on its approach and should actually be downgraded to a depression by the time it actually gets there, but it's going to still bring some heavier rains to that region. So right now, the Storm Prediction Center does in fact highlighted that threat for severe storms later on this afternoon into the early evening with that complex moving in. So for those areas back into the Des Moines region, Springfield, into Indianapolis, back into Milwaukee, Chicago, areas of La Crosse and Green Bay, and up here into Grand Rapids, Michigan, all the way extending into the Detroit region down to Cleveland, and likely going to be extending even into Buffalo, and then heading into tomorrow. I think things actually could be even upgraded to an enhanced risk as we get further in and get a little bit more details. But right now, we do have Pittsburgh in line, Baltimore in line, DC in line, those areas back into Philadelphia, New York City, Hartford. All those areas could be under the gun tomorrow with widespread damaging winds. 60 to upwards to 70 miles an hour is definitely not out of the question. And even some larger hail could unfold across this region. And you can't even roll out a sporadic tornado or two. Is definitely probably not out of the question, looking at all the dynamics that are coming in, for tomorrow. And you can see some of these preliminary wind gusts with these mesoscale convective complexes really getting its act together and pushing out those heavier winds out ahead of it as they kind of bow out. And that, whenever you see that, that definitely is indicative of some heavier winds are going to be trying to push off to its east here, and some of those winds could be, yes, approaching that 60 to 70 miles an hour range as these kind of ribs start to show up on the radar feature. That's always indicative of some heavier high wind gusts as these actually pick up forward speed as well, and especially through Pennsylvania. I think if they're going to be an upgrade tomorrow, I would actually hone in into this region in and around Pennsylvania with all the dynamics that are starting to come together. And it looks to be extended well further off to its southwest for those areas back into southern Illinois, Indiana, even Kentucky are likely going to be into the action tomorrow. So definitely be on high alert for that severe storms that will be moving in. But then once that moves out, all eyes will be on the big change, I think, what's to come with this much cooler air mass that will be building up here across the Pacific Northwest, back into Idaho, those areas in Montana as well, getting into Wyoming. You're going to be cooling off in a big way, and that's only going to be the beginning stages of what's to come with our pattern change that looks to unfold as we head into Labor Day weekend for your holiday Labor Day, and then even going into beyond that, extending into next week with a big time cool down, some of the coolest temperatures you've seen for summer, right? As we kind of make that transition out of summer and head into meteorologically fall, we're starting to feel the effects of that and kind of seeing that unfold. So between now and then, here is your rain opportunities for the next 72 hours. So you've got this little tut low, this easterly wave that's kind of sitting this upper level low that's been traversing across South Texas. So those extreme portions are likely going to get the heaviest amounts that will extend all the way back into Florida. You've got the little dry slide further north, but where the vorticities are and where those complexes are going to be traversing across, obviously that's where the heaviest rain would be, likely into the Dakotas, Minnesota, back into Iowa. That extends into Illinois, and then there's your culprit as we head into tomorrow, going in with this action with some additional showers and thunderstorms, and some of those could be on the severe side. But notice where the dry slot is, mainly out west, where they're going to be kind of left out of the action ahead. But there's the cold front, right? So you've got the cold front set up on Thursday. You've got this upper level low that will be finally spinning off and actually spinning up and out into Canada. But on the backside, it's going to drag some definitely colder air on the backside, and you're going to feel this front. I mean, considering where we've been as of late, and here's the leading edge of this front that will likely be in and around the Wisconsin region, Illinois, as well as into Kansas, and going into the Oklahoma and the Texas panhandle by the time you get into your Friday time frame. And that leading edge, kind of the beginning stages of the cool down further south that will likely take place, will be extending into New Mexico, those areas, into areas of Colorado there, back into Oklahoma, getting into the Texas panhandle. But that's only a signs of things to come of a bigger cool down ahead, heading into your Labor Day. So, and it's going to bring some additional rain showers and kind of more of a scattered to a widespread event, especially over several days, extending into New Mexico, much of Texas there, into Oklahoma, back into Missouri, and that will extend likely into the Arkansas region as well. And the cooler air is really going to start to make an impact as those temperatures start to drop, about 5 to 10 degrees. But considering these areas have been well into the hundreds most of summer, this is going to be a bigger cool down, and it's obviously some of the coolest temperatures they've seen in months. So this is going to be a welcome sight nonetheless. And if we extend the view and kind of take you back out as we head into September, right? So I mean, September is your most active month on the hurricane front, and we are, like I mentioned, we are watching a couple tropical waves. One is east of the Windward Islands right now, and that's the one the National Hurricane Center has been eyeing right now, has a 20% probability. We'll likely have another one that comes off the African coast. So we are going to have these waves are going to continue to come off, and some of these are going to try to get its act together. So I do feel we're going to be getting an uptick on the tropical front. So don't let your guard down that the season's over by none of the stretch of the imagination. Is it definitely has been on a cooler side as of late, but it looks to be ramping up, especially as we go into the month of September. But what's also going to be ramping up is the cool down, right? So once that cool down comes into areas of the south, it's actually going to slow down and stall out or kind of linger. When it does that, it's going to cause those kind of overrunning type setups and keep those cooler anomalies alive for an extended period of time. So you're going into your Monday, Labor Day, this is what it looks like. So obviously you've got some warmer air coming in on the backside, but that's just going to maximize the colder air on the front side and bring those cooler anomalies across a good part of the south and central U.S., getting into the Ohio Valley and getting into the Northeast. So we're not talking severe storms by then. Pleasant light conditions, and some a cooler rain will likely unfold along with those cooler temperatures. And there's the rain prospects going into your Labor Day, and some of these could be heavy. If I think there's any heavy day that could be picking up some higher rain amounts, would be likely on Monday, as we have a little bit more moisture content in the air, and as that frontal boundary kind of lingers and stalls around, causing those overrunning type setups. Some of these areas could be looking at some isolated flash flooding is likely not out of the question heading into your Labor Day, with a lot of moisture content just draped across this region, from literally again from Texas to Oklahoma to Arkansas to Louisiana and back into those areas across the southeast. And the cooler air is going to stick around, not just a one-day wonder, folks. I mean, this is a cool front that's going to be, leaving a mark and feeling the difference compared to the, the 100-degree temperatures you've seen most of summer. That's going to be a pleasant surprise, with some of these areas dipping into the 80s for highs and actually 60s for lows. It's going to be a very nice, pleasant, light conditions draped across a good part of the region, where all those areas that you see in blue, and that happens on Tuesday. And then there's Wednesday, folks. It really doesn't go anywhere. It still sticks around even until the middle of next week. And even Thursday, it starts to moderate a little bit, but it's still, areas are picking up those below average temperatures, for an extended period of time. So I do think the change starts on Friday, and that will go all the way till Tuesday for your rain prospects. And then the cooler air starts to moderate heading into Wednesday and Thursday, but still enough to feel the difference in the temperature drop that you've definitely seen as of late. So if we break it down over the next 7 to 10 days, here are your rain prospects. So obviously you have a noticeable dry slot across the west and much of the Four Corners region, and back into portions of Colorado here, as well as into areas of Wyoming. But back here into eastern Arizona, into New Mexico, and especially those areas into drought-stricken West Texas, could see definitely some beneficial rains. And then further south, where that little low pressure is going to be pretty evident, they're the ones that are going to be highly likely to pick up some flooding rains across this region. But you can see where all the red shaded areas, that's where the stalled frontal boundary is going to be draped across for many days, keeping those cooler anomalies alive and the rain prospects alive as well, as we head through your Labor Day weekend, going into your Labor Day, all the way through the middle of next week. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch the next update, why I protect you before and after the storm.